Week 5 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few defense DST units I looked at off the wire this week. The first one, the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos, they went out there, I know it was wet conditions, but they beat the New York Jets, holding that offense down to only 9 points in the Week 4 victory at New York. So the last few weeks, they've gone out there and played great football with this Bronco team. Week 3 at Tampa Bay, 7 points allowed, 7 sacks, an interception, a fumble recovery. In Week 4 at the New York Jets, like I said, 9 points allowed, 5 sacks, a fumble recovery in that one. So Week 5, a good matchup coming up here versus the Vegas Raiders, where their offense isn't all that great, especially if Devontae Adams is going to miss this one once again. We'll see as the week goes on with injury report. But Denver's out there in 84% of fantasy leagues, and they play good football the first 3 out of 4 games defensively. I know their offense isn't good, but the defense is getting to the quarterback. Last 2 games, 12 sacks for this defense. And this week, I like them in a decent matchup versus the Vegas Raiders. And they've gone out there and been productive in the early going. The next DST I looked at is the Green Bay Packers. Packers lead the league in turnovers this season. And they're going out there and they're making plays. I know they gave up 31 points to Minnesota with this Packer team, but still had 2 sacks, an interception, and 2 fumble recoveries in that ball game. And this week, a pretty good matchup at the Los Angeles Rams. Well, we know they're depleted offensively with injuries to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. So the last few weeks for Green Bay, Week 2 at versus Indianapolis, 10 points allowed, a sack, 3 interceptions. Week 3 at Tennessee, 14 points allowed, 8 sacks, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery, and a pick 6 in that one. In Week 4 versus Minnesota, 31 points allowed, like I said, 2 sacks, an interception, 2 fumble recoveries. So the next couple weeks, Week 5 and 6, good matchups at the Rams, Arizona, where their offense has been hit or miss so far in the early going. And I like Green Bay, especially they've been a turnover machine so far this season, and they're available right now in 69% of fantasy leagues. Next DST is the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks, their defense is usually solid. I know they're playing here tonight on Monday Night Football, and that was a matchup to avoid most likely at the Detroit Lions, but they're available in 75% of fantasy leagues. Here's the Seattle DST. A good matchup coming up versus the New York Giants, where they've had trouble all season scoring touchdowns, and this Seattle Seahawks defense has been good the first 2 out of 3 weeks on the year. Week 3 versus Miami, 3 points allowed, 6 sacks in that one. And then Week 4 tonight at Detroit, I don't like the matchup. But Week 5, a good streaming option versus the New York Giants, where they give up the 5th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. So with another home game coming up Week 5, and that 12th man gives this defense energy, and I think they could cause havoc on Daniel Jones early and often. They're definitely made this week in the final defense DST I looked at. The Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis, I know the defense really hasn't been good this season here, but as a streaming option this week at the Jacksonville Jaguars, I like the matchup where their offense hasn't been all that great. I know it came down to the wire in a tough loss for the Jaguars, losing 24-20 versus the Houston Texans. But anyway, I think this Indianapolis Colt team could go out there and make some plays. In the last couple weeks, they've been serviceable. Week 3 versus the Bears, 16 points allowed, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery. And Week 4 versus the Steelers, they dig up 24 points, but 4 sacks and 2 fumble recoveries. So with some good matchups coming up, Week 5 at Jacksonville, their offense isn't great. Week 6 at Tennessee, their offense is one of the worst in the league. And then Week 7, we got to see what this offense looks like with Huntley at quarterback. And Tua obviously not going to be back for Miami. So the next 2-3 weeks, definitely good matchups. And they're good ad this week, available in 86% of fantasy leagues. That's a few defense DST units I looked at off the wire for Week 5 of the fantasy football season.